Okay, we are almost ready to begin with Texas coach Vic Schaefer. We'll give you all a second to get seated. Okay, at this time, Vic will give an opening statement and then we will take questions. Please raise your hand and remember to state your name and affiliation. Coach?
Good morning. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge someone who's given so much to the game, and it's my understanding they stepped down today, Doug Bruno. He's a dear friend and colleague, and he's seen everything probably that's happened in this sport and then some, and we obviously played them earlier in the year, and I'd reached out to him several times with no response, and then finally on game day I was able to talk to him on the phone, and his voice sounded so good. It sounded like Doug, but he told me he wasn't going to be able to coach in the game that night, and but anyway, I just felt compelled to mention him, thank him. Again, when you've been in this game as long as I have, it's people like him that you just really come to appreciate because you've seen so much growth in the sport, and he's had a big part in that, and I want to wish him the very best. So just going into this game, again, really honored to be a part of the NCAA tournament, but even added to that is the opportunity to be in a game with another program like the University of Texas in Tennessee that's so rich in tradition. The history of the game happened so much in Knoxville and in Austin alike, and I'm just honored to, again, have the opportunity to not only be in the NCAA tournament, but to be involved in a game with them. Coach Caldwell's done an incredible job with that team this year. They're really good. They could have easily have won 12 or 13 in our league. We're in just about every game all year long. They've had two of their better wins obviously are against Connecticut and Ohio State last week. You don't do that by accident. And she obviously has brought a lot of attention to the game, not only with their success, but how they've done it. And they've done it really, really well. And it's a credit to her and her staff and her players because they play extremely hard. They're tough. And so we're going to have to play really well tomorrow. Proud of my team. It's not easy to be 33-3 coming out of the Southeastern Conference, to have played, I guess, the second best schedule in the country behind South Carolina as far as the net goes. So I'm awfully proud of my group. But we're going to have to obviously be ready to go tomorrow and take care of the ball. It'll be a guard-oriented game on one end, and then when you get on the other, you've got to have all five involved and playing really well. You got to take care of the ball. You got to realize they basically have five players that average double figures, and so we'll have to be real attentive to that and really focused. We obviously had a knockdown drag out at our place earlier in the year. We were kind of running on fumes that week. We had already played Maryland on that Monday. On Martin Luther King Day, we had to come home and play them on Thursday. We were in the midst of let's see if I can remember it, Sunday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday stretch, and really had a tough game with them. Could have gone either way, so I'm sure they're confident going into the game, rightfully so. I think our kids are ready to go, and again, for somebody that's been around and seen a lot in the game, Coach Caldwell's done an incredible job getting that thing turned around really quick, and you have to give her and her kids a lot of credit for that.
Okay, we'll start in the front, right?
Hey, Coach Doug Feinberg, the AP.
Hey, Doug.
Thanks for your words on Bruno. It saves me a question asking about it.
Yeah.
Does it help you guys having played them already, since their style is different and the subbing, the frantic pace, the pressing, that you've seen it once, so your kids are not accustomed to it, but they've seen it, so you watching films like, hey, this is what we did the first time?
For sure. It was, though, it just seems so long ago. You know, it's over, a month and a half ago, I think. So it's been a while. Looks like it was like on January 23rd or something like that, 21st. So that's a long time ago, 2 months ago. But I do think, when you get in the NCAA tournament, you think, okay, man, thank goodness you get out of the SEC and you don't have to go against, those people, because you have so much respect and admiration for everybody in our league. And then, these things happen. I mean, they go into Ohio State and they thumped them. I mean, they played really good. Those kids play so hard. And so this is what happens. And so, I'm sure they'll have a great crowd. They're a little bit closer to Knoxville here than we are to Austin. So, but I do think there's some, there's familiarity on their part, and there certainly is a little bit on our part too.
Front left.
Danny Davis, Austin American States, and Vic, the Tennessee game would have been the last time Aaliyah played. So I'm kind of wondering, in the 6 weeks since, how has she, and Layla too as well, kind of stepped up and helped in other aspects of this team?
Yeah, they still are involved every day. They're around. They're obviously doing their rehab and involved in themselves, but they're off the floor in the locker room. They're obviously involved with our players and still are a big part of what we do off the floor. And so, and I know on the bench they're a lot of energy over there, which is important for our kids, to have your friends and your teammates pulling for you. And Sarah kind of runs that crew over there, but those two have really done a good job, and they're great teammates. They love their teammates, and their energy is infectious over there.
Right here.
Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. Vic, I look up those names. It says Roy Harmon, Shea Holly, Taylor Jones. That's a lot of institutional knowledge in a tournament. How great is it to be old at this time of the year, when some of these teams are doing this for the first time?
Yeah, those kids, you're right. They've got a lot of mileage, a lot of wins, and again, it's one of the things that, for me, I just, I want it so bad for those kids. You want it so bad for them if this time of year could be, and so it's nice to have a veteran group like that, on the floor. They've been there. I think they're unfazed. They're unflappable. And so it's, again, tomorrow's going to be really important that we take care of the ball. I think the first time we had 12 turnovers, and I think only 2 of them were directly a result of the press. So we're going to have to take care of them and take care of the ball, and 2 of those names you just mentioned are veteran guards.
Kirk Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Vic, you've bragged incessantly about Rory since she got here, and I think you started recruiting her when you were at Mississippi State, right?
Yeah.
I was curious, your first impressions of her, and why did you want to get her on board so quickly?
Yeah, I'll have to say it, and my man here is from Mississippi State, but I bet I was on the school plane a bunch, flying to Houston to see her play when I was coaching there and recruiting her. And, she's somebody, obviously, that there were 3 really good guards that came out that year, and all of them, Raven at South Carolina and Rory. And I just, we were in dire need of a great, we knew who we were graduating and all that. And obviously when I got to Austin, Rory being 2.5 hours from campus, she was my, our top priority. We had to try to hold on to Aaliyah Moore, who had already committed, and then we really had to go get Rory. When you're building a program, it starts with your point guard. And, that was the one I felt like, being 2.5 hours from home, we had a great opportunity to get and needed to get. And as you know, when you're at the University of Texas, you try to close the borders and close the walls and keep the good ones in the state. And in my mind, she was one of the best in the country, if not the best. And so, I knew Raven was closer to South Carolina, and I knew they were recruiting her. I'd been to her games as well, but Rory was the one, in my mind, once we got to Austin, we had to really focus on. And boy, she's not disappointed a lick. I mean, you're talking about a kid that scored almost 1,300 points, over 700 assists, the only player in the history of our university, in our storied history, to do that. And could potentially have another year to really separate herself, to be at a point where no one will ever catch her again. So, again, if she was sitting here, she'd tell you, give her teammates credit, because they've been able to finish a lot of those passes that she's made. But she's just an incredible young lady, and I'm a better coach, better father, better husband, because I've been around her every day, and I'm really thankful that I've been able to. There's some comfort, y'all, when you're a head coach, knowing that that's the engine, that's who's running your group, your team. And then we've obviously been able to add Madison Booker, who's been able to do the same thing. Once we lost Rory a year ago, Book stepped up and was just incredible. And so now that's kind of where you start, when you think about it, when you're going into a game. That's two good ones that you start with, and then you got a Shea Holly who's been here 5 years. So there's a lot of comfort in that.
Here on the aisle to the left.
Yeah, Michael Vopel, ESPN.com. Coach Schaefer, you mentioned a little earlier you've been in the game a long time, so you know this history between these two programs goes way, way back, even when they obviously weren't in the same conference, they played each other. I wonder if you could talk about the fact that these were two institutions that bought into women's basketball a lot earlier. I know it doesn't necessarily have to do with the game itself, but the bigger picture of it and what that means that, meeting in an NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you have to, everything you just said. For me, I've coached against Pat Summitt. Then you have Holly Warlick, Kelly Jolly Harper. I mean, Tennessee women's basketball, the University of Texas women's basketball, those two institutions, along with just a handful of others, their administrations understood the value that women's basketball had and could bring to an institution. And they invested in it. And they invested in it with, obviously, two unbelievable coaches. And again, I stand here today so humbled and honored to have that opportunity to now be in an NCAA tournament, having to play against them. Obviously, I had to play against Tennessee when I was at Mississippi State. They had never beaten Tennessee when I took that job at State. And then go to Texas, where those two had a history of playing each other in non-conference every year since the beginning of time. And so for me, and I know, Coach Caldwell embraces where she is, and she understands the history as well. And so I'm sure she feels like I do. It's just an honor to represent two entities, two huge women's basketball corporations, if you will, that have been around for so long, and now we're entrusted. I mean, it can be a heavy burden if you let it, to be quite honest with you. I cherish my visits and my time with Coach Conrad so much. I have love and respect and admiration for her, and it's always good just to be around her and be with her. But I also have a Coach Harston, who's actually been on both staffs, who's one of our sport admins, and then Chris Plonsky, who's seen it all. But you're talking about three women on just my campus that have invested so much in women's basketball their entire life. I mean, for me, that's what I've been entrusted with, and I don't take it lightly. And I know Coach Caldwell doesn't take her opportunity lightly either at a place like the University of Tennessee, where you're right. They have been there from day one, just like Texas, and have seen the value of what happens when you invest in a program, invest in coaches, invest in facilities, locker rooms, all those things. And so, again, it's a real honor for me, I can tell you.
Abby Halpin, USA Today. Coach, when you were talking about Rory, you mentioned her injury that she had that knocked her out for quite a bit. How did you see her grow as a person, rehabbing that injury and working her way back to the court?
I can tell you, I've seen one other kid in my career work as hard as she did. You know, this year's schedule, I put it off a week. We didn't open the first week. We opened the second week because I was trying to give Rory an extra week to get ready. She scrimmaged USC in October in a closed-door scrimmage. She was ready to go she probably could have gone at 5 months, but no need. We don't play anybody in July, and there's no point in rushing her. But the kid's commitment, her toughness, with that injury, it's not the physical piece as much as it's the mental piece, getting over that. And we were laughing the other day talking about that first outside competition experience when we went and played in October up in Dallas. We met USC up there, and we talked about how she was a step slow, which was still a step faster than just about everybody else on the floor. There was a couple of guards that USC had that gave her a little problem, but we laughed about that because, you look at her play now and you're amazed. Like, you look at her and her movement, her explosiveness. I said this even before she got hurt, the torque and just the power that she plays with, the change of direction. I'm amazed. I was amazed out there today. I'm amazed every day. She does something every day that's just explosive, off the chart, but it's what's allowed her to be so good on both ends of the floor. And I'm not sure. And so the answer to your question is, so while she's hurt, I got to move Booker into the point guard spot, and she's helping bring Madison along and telling her, hey, coach is calling that play for this reason. He ain't just calling it for grins. You got to understand, he's calling it because he wants this person to get the ball, or he wants this for this. So she's coaching over there and helping her along with everybody else. And then if she was in here today, and I heard her say this, I think yesterday or the day before, she'd look at me some days and go, I see what you were meaning by that, Coach. You were right the last, 2 or 3 years, And then last year, we're standing on the side in January, and now she's, the best press attack, y'all, is a great point guard. It isn't how many press plays you can run. It's just having a good point guard. We were standing there one day. I was putting in 3 press attacks. We were fixing to go play West Virginia, who press 40 minutes. So Booker's my point guard, and we're having to run through all the. She looked at me and she said, Coach, I don't ever remember all these press attacks. And I said, no kidding, we ain't never done these before. But I got to put them in for this team because you're over here with me, standing here talking to me about this. So, it's just, she brought so much to the table on the floor, then she's off of it, but yet she's over there coaching, mentoring our players. And it's why I tell her all the time, whenever she's done playing, I'll have a spot for her on my staff because she and I are on the same page so many times. She calls plays that I'm thinking about, before I can get them out of my mouth. She's calling them out and looking at mismatches and things like that. So it's fun to coach a team like this, and it's really fun to coach a team that's got a point guard like her.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
Wow. All right.
17 minutes.
Okay. Hey, appreciate everybody. Thank you for your time and your coverage of our great game. Praise the Lord, Nook of Horns. You must have a lunch date or something.
No, you got ESPN next.
Okay. Oh yeah, we beat them a couple times. You know.
We got 2-2.
I know.
You were gone. Congratulations.
Familiar.
You were fun to watch.
Thank you. Let's not twist our words today.
Okay, we are ready for the Texas players. Please raise your hand and we'll get a mic and we'll start to the left.
Craig Way, Longhorn Radio Network. This is mainly for Shea and Taylor. I wanted to get your thoughts. Did you get to this point where you know you have a finite number of practices and games and stuff like that? Does it roll through your mind like when you go out on the practice, hey, we only got, this many more practices, this many more games as Longhorns?
Yeah, it definitely does. I'll go into a practice not necessarily thinking about it, but at some point it'll just be like, whoa, this is probably maybe one of my last times doing this or that. And me and Taylor were talking about it last night at dinner, and she counted it, and I think we're at 9 or 10 days of that's our max, if we go all the way, which is just crazy to think about. You spend so much time doing one thing and you love it. And so you definitely think about it. And, I've said this before, maybe it makes a drill you don't like that much not so bad anymore. You just want to soak it all in and enjoy every moment, really.
I didn't really think about it much until our last game in Moody. And then we had our potentially last practice in Moody. And I just think that's when it started to set in. And yesterday at dinner, like Shay said, we just started talking about how close the end is. And it's crazy to think. I mean, I've been going at it for this is my 6th year now. So been in the game a while, in the college basketball game, and so it's a new feeling.
Okay, we'll go right here to the right.
Michael Waterloo, Winsider. Rory, we saw Juju Watkins go down earlier this week with an ACL tear. As somebody who's recovered from one themselves, how does the emotional and the mental recovery compare to the physical recovery?
It's 10 to 2. The physical is honestly, when I look back, it's so easy. I wouldn't say so easy, but looking back, it was it was a lot easier because the mental comes after when you're cleared. You're cleared and you're okay, I'm physically good. They wouldn't release me if I wasn't physically good, but it's not they help you with your mental as much as your physical. And so when you get to playing and it's the mental now looking back, I'm still going through it. It's not something that kind of just goes away. Just because you start playing again, it's definitely a lot harder. And obviously I hate that for her. Absolutely don't like that. I'm very, we're not even that close, but I've said before, this is a basketball player, a women's basketball player, and we all stick together. And I just wish she has the best recovery, and just so she knows that she's going to come back better, faster, stronger. Obviously it's going to take a lot longer than any, regular ankle injury, but she's going to be a better player than she was before. So.
Al to the left.
Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. For Shay, what are the advantages of, you guys are young in life, but you're old college basketball players. What advantages does that give you in a pressure situation like this? And for Rory, Coach Schaefer's been saying all year, I want it so bad for them, y'all. How bad do y'all want it for him? Because he's been at the doorstep twice in the championship.
I'll answer your first question. I think being older, Taylor said this is her 6th year, this is my 5th year, I think it just gives you a certain level of confidence. My dad always told me growing up, you get confidence from your preparation. When you don't do the preparation, and that's when you get nervous and a little stressed out. So when you do the prep, you feel good in those moments, and I think we've had a lot of prep, obviously being older. And I think it's just being in those moments before and knowing how you handle it and how you can learn from maybe moments you didn't handle it the way you wanted to, and just learning from that. And yeah, it just gives you a certain level of comfort, I think, in pressure moments.
To answer your question, you said how bad we want it for him. Of course, we all want to win a national championship and get to that last game. But I think us showing how much we care about not just ourselves and our teammates and stuff, but the coaches are the ones that are staying up late nights, staying at the gym, trying to prepare us for these games, and to show respect to that, we're going to play our hearts out. Like, there's not going to be a doubt in our mind and their mind that we're not going to show respect just by playing our hearts out and trying our best to just play as good as we can and follow that scout and follow the plan. And so, yeah, that's how bad we want it for him because he worked so hard for us.
Abby Halpin, USA Today. Rory, got another question for you. During your rehab from your injury, did your view or perspective on the game of basketball change at all? Like, did your love and admiration and appreciation grow for it? Like, how did your view on the game change as you were viewing it from the sidelines?
If I'm being honest, I absolutely hated it right after I got injured. Like, I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want to go to practice. Mind you, that was just like a day after I, tore my ACL. But eventually you get out of your own funk and you stop being so selfish and into yourself and think about, it was 12 games in. Like, I'm still on the team. I'm still a player on the team. I may not just be playing. And so they still had a whole season. Like, I still have to be there. And then obviously I spent a lot of time, like, just seeing a different perspective of the game, like you said, and understand. I think those moments, like, you got to look on the bright side of some things, and I just thought, like, being able to focus and learn the game of basketball from another point of view, because I'm so used to looking at it from being on the court. But sometimes, like, Coach might be right about what he says, when he's fussing, and you don't necessarily understand it, like, if you're in the game, but, like, when you're on the sidelines, like, you actually, like, okay. And I think it helped a lot with just slowing the game down for me coming into this year. I think I, like, learned a lot from Madison from that point guard position. And obviously she can say she learned a lot from me, but I learned a lot from her. Because at that moment, we're just 12 games in. I'm not perfect. I can still learn something from someone, and it doesn't have to always be, like, someone older or more experienced. Like, so I learned from Madison still. So, yeah.
Okay, far right.
Another question for Rory. I wanted to ask, what does Coach Vic mean to you personally? When he spoke to us a few minutes ago, he spoke so highly of the process of getting to know you over the years and the growth that he's seen from you and what you've done for him as a coach, as a father, as a husband. So I'm just curious, from your vantage point, what has he meant to you?
Yeah, you don't come here if you don't have a relationship with the coaches. And I built the best relationship with him and Lovato and Blair when they were recruiting me from Mississippi State. And he kind of made the comment the other day, like, saying, we're not even with our parents as much, like, at all. Like, we see them at games every once in a while, but truly, like, he's like our father figure, like, every day. And just to see how he talks about us, and especially to talk about me, and how he just truly cares. Like, I've known he's cared about me a lot, but just to see when I went down with my ACL injury, and, like, I had a good little long moment with him in his office, and to see, like, it truly broke him, that's, like, something that you really appreciate as a player. And he cares about you not just a player, but as a person. And I think that goes a long way, because basketball is not who we are, but it's what we do. And I think he truly does understand that. So as someone who's, going through practice every day, like, spending, like, 11 months out of 12 months in a year to, perform well, I think he does a really good job of just showing how much he cares. And that means a lot to me, so I'm going to show that way as well.
Kurt Bowles from the Houston Chronicle. Madison and Roy talked about learning from you. What have you learned from Rory the last 2 years? And is there anybody that hates losing more than Rory?
I would say I learned how to be a leader for this team. Just watching her the first 12 games of my freshman year before she went down. Watching how she led this team, watching how, she was I can't even explain it, but, like, she was, like, the head of this team. And, like, whatever she did, like, we were right behind her, and, like, just, like, the energy she, like, put on defense, like, just, like, the little things, like, details. She's always first in line in practice, everything. She's, like, the first one up. Just, like, that kind of leadership. And I think that this year I've kind of taken more of that role, too, just, being, like, going to, experience, starting point guard, being like an Elite Eight. And I kind of just took that with me this year and kind of be more of a leader. I'm still kind of not the leader I guess they want me to be, but but I'm still learning here and there. I'm still, learning here and there, but I think just that one piece that people don't see a lot is really what I learned, and it's what I'm happy to learn from her.
Here on the aisle to the left.
Yeah, Michael Vopel from ESPN.com. Madison, you were you were player of the year in the Big 12 as a freshman. Go to a completely new conference, you're player of the year. How do you feel like your game has grown? And then specifically, the player you are now, going against a heavy pressing team like Tennessee, how have you grown to adapt better in those situations?
I think last year we played West Virginia. I think last year we played West Virginia, and I remember we didn't have Rory. We didn't have Rory there to break the press. She's probably like the one-man press break, whatever you want to call her. But we didn't have her. I was the point guard. And I remember I had 9 turnovers that game in the press. Yeah, that was a great stat line. 9 turnovers, 9 assists, I think some more points. Almost had a triple-double. But just learning from that moment, just looking at my turnovers, I think I've kind of learned patience, don't go their speed, go my speed. And for, tomorrow, Tennessee, I think it's going to be the same thing, patience. Like, they're going to try to, speed you up, but I'm going to just go at my own pace. And, just coming to like a new conference, winning player of the year is a blessing, for real. But I just think this year is more of a target on my back, more of a mental thing. I think also I lean on my teammates a lot for that. I thank them for that a lot. Because when my shooting, when I shot bad, they picked me up. You got Kyla down there, Taylor, Shay, hitting clutch threes, Rory, leading our team, the freshmen. They're doing their thing. I had to find other ways to kind of provide to this team, but I really thank them for everything, all my awards and stuff like that. It's really just come from them. Thank y'all.
I'm Jack Church with the Daily Beacon in Knoxville. Taylor, what do you remember from that first game against Tennessee, and then what as a team do you need to do again from that first game to win again tomorrow?
I remember it was a very fast-paced game. They subbed a lot, and I think we got a lot of O boards. That's what I remember. And I think just always mentally having to be engaged because how many subs that they have and just how fast the game is. You can't have any mental lapse or they'll take advantage of it. Sorry, what was the second part of the question? What do you need to do in that first game again? Oh, okay. I think crashing the boards. I think that we did a good job at getting rebounds and keeping them off the boards. They have height, they're really athletic, and they get to the boards quite a bit. And so making sure that we block them out and doing our job getting to the rebounds is for the post especially, but for the guards and all of us as a whole, breaking their press. They 40-minute in-your-face defense. And to the last 2 practices, we've done a really good job, I think, playing against our guys and learning to play at our pace and not let them speed us up. Also, transition too will be key. But I'm confident in our team that I'm excited for the rematch.
Question in the front.
Danny Davis, the Austin American Statesman. This is for any player who wants to take this. What contributions have you all gotten from Aaliyah and Layla with them unable to play, but obviously still a part of this team?
So much. I mean, Michigan Layla, she was balling, and just for her to come here, no, she don't play at all, but she still gives so much effort, off the court. Just the advice she gives to everyone. I think she's always every time out, she's always saying something. Amos, she's been here before. Also, she's in the Forest ear Jocks. I think that's why she's playing so well this year. I think just her, giving Jock confidence and telling Jock, patience is gonna be your best friend basically. And I credit that to her because Jock is doing well on both ends for us, and we need her to keep doing well. And yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. When I see Layla and Aaliyah, unfortunately they have their own thing going on where they can't play with us on the court. But just to see how engaged they are for people who know like they're going through their own things. They're probably going through their own mental battles and physical battles. To see that they're going through that and are still like positive every day and just engaged in all the practices, all the games, it just brings so much positive energy. Like I really appreciate when they do that, because I know and understand like that feeling of not being able to help, and you're on the sidelines a lot. So I show a lot of gratefulness to them and appreciation, because we need every single player. It doesn't matter if you don't touch the floor, you always touch the floor. We need everyone.
Yeah, I think what Rory mentioned when she was out last year, how maybe you see some things that you're like, oh, coach is right about that, and things that are harder to see when you're on the court. And I think them being able to see those things and voice that to us really helps everyone that is on the floor, because it's just like nice to like you can like take things from Coach Schaefer, but sometimes it's just nice to have it from a teammate as well who has a different relationship with you and can maybe word things differently and like help different people understand that. And so I think that brings that's like really beneficial for us as well.
Yeah, I think all three of them basically summed it up, but both of them have been to the battles and played so much basketball, and even if Layla hasn't played many games here, there's a certain wiseness and level of experience that they have, and being able to hear them on the sideline and see their input, you know that whatever they say is valid. And I also think both of them do a great job at just bringing energy and encouraging when you come out of a timeout, and even if like the other team goes on a run, you come out and you hear both of them and also our freshmen just keeping us up and being as positive as possible. It's really uplifting for the team, and it's really impactful too. And it's neither of them have to do that. They are both going through hard times with their own things that they're dealing with, and it's tough enough not being out on the court, and it also is pretty tough giving the amount of energy that they give us. And so we're really thankful for them, and they have a great impact on our team.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.